What if the most celebrated moment in human history was a lie? What if the iconic image of a man walking on the moon was nothing more than a Hollywood production, filmed on a secret military base? For decades, these have been dismissed as fringe conspiracy theories. But what if a key insider, a man at the very heart of the alleged deception, decided that the truth had to come out? This isn't just another theory. This is a story of a deathbed confession, a legendary filmmaker's supposed hidden clues, and a cover-up so vast it has shaped our reality for over 50 years. Imagine a man sworn to secrecy, his life and the lives of his family threatened if he ever spoke a word. For decades, he carried the weight of a monumental deception. This man was Cyrus Eugene Akers, and according to a shocking testimony released after his death, he was the chief of security at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. His story, if true, doesn't just question the moon landing, it exposes the entire event as an audacious lie. The story begins with Bart Sibrel, a filmmaker who has made a career from his claim that the Apollo missions were a hoax. In 2023, Sibrel published what he says is the final piece of the puzzle, the deathbed confession of Cyrus Eugene Akers, as told by his son. Akers alleged that in 1968, a year before the world watched Neil Armstrong's first step, he witnessed the construction of a massive film set inside 2 aircraft hangars at Cannon Air Force Base. The alleged code name for this operation, Project Slam Dunk. According to Akers' testimony, the operation was overseen by the highest levels of government, and he claimed President Lyndon B. Johnson was there on the first day of filming. A year later, as the world cheered, Akers said he watched the broadcast and cried, knowing it was the very same footage he had guarded. Now, of course, the official record denies all of this. Skeptics and government sources are quick to point out there is no verifiable record of a Cyrus Eugene Akers serving as chief of security at Cannon Air Force Base, nor are there official documents mentioning a Project Slam Dunk. The claims originate entirely from Sibrel, whose methods have been questioned and whose theories have been repeatedly debunked. For believers, this lack of a paper trail isn't a red flag, but proof of a ruthlessly efficient cover-up. A deception of this scale would need a master of illusion. Who could possibly direct such a production? According to a long-standing theory, there was only one man for the job, Stanley Kubrick. Fresh off his 1968 masterpiece, 2001, A Space Odyssey, the theory goes that NASA secretly recruited Kubrick to apply his genius to the Apollo missions. For years, this was just speculation. Then, in 2015, a video that seemed to be the smoking gun went viral. It appeared to show Stanley Kubrick confessing to everything.
I perpetrated a huge fraud on the American public. The moon landings were faked, and I was the person who filmed it.
Grotesque lie.
But for those who believe, Kubrick's real confession is hidden in plain sight, encoded in his 1980 horror classic, The Shining. Theorists like Jay Weidner argue the film is littered with clues, an idea explored in the documentary Room 237. They point to the Apollo 11 sweater worn by the young boy Danny. The most cited clue is the number of the Forbidden Room. In Stephen King's novel, it's Room 217. Kubrick changed it to Room 237. The reason, theorists claim, is that the average distance from the Earth to the Moon is roughly 237,000 miles. In this interpretation, Room 237 represents the faked lunar landscape, a place that looks real but is just a fantasy. If the landings were a hoax, what does that say about the astronauts themselves? The focus often turns to Neil Armstrong, who famously became intensely private after his historic mission. While his family attributed this to his humble personality, others saw the behavior of a man burdened by a secret. His words are often analyzed for hidden meanings, especially a line from a 1994 White House speech on the 25th anniversary of the landing.
There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
Truth's protective layers. What did he mean? To many, it sounded like a cryptic confession. No Apollo astronaut has ever said the landings were faked. In fact, they have consistently and forcefully refuted such claims. Buzz Aldrin's frustration with the theory is notorious. In 2002, he was confronted by Bart Sibrel, who called him a coward and a liar. The 72-year-old Aldrin responded by punching Sibrel in the jaw. Charges were not filed against the astronaut. When you look at the pieces of the conspiracy, a disturbing picture begins to form. A supposed military security chief confesses from beyond the grave. A genius filmmaker allegedly embeds a confession in a horror film. The first man on the moon speaks in riddles about protective layers of truth. But the official narrative is supported by its own mountain of verifiable physical evidence. They point to the 382 kilograms, 842 pounds, of lunar rocks brought back to Earth, which have been independently verified by labs worldwide. They point to the retroreflectors left on the lunar surface by the Apollo 11, 14 and 15 missions, which scientists still use today to bounce lasers from Earth and measure the moon's distance with incredible precision. Furthermore, in the years since, the Apollo landing sites have been photographed by independent spacecraft from other nations, including Japan, China, and India, showing the lunar modules, rovers, and even the astronauts' footprints still undisturbed on the airless surface. The science and the history books tell one story. Yet, when tales like that of Cyrus Akers emerge, aligning with decades-old theories, you have to ask, which story do you choose to believe? And why do these alternative narratives continue to capture our imagination? For more content like this, subscribe to the What the Happened YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.